This is Chicago Johnny's. It is blazing hot today. It's about 90 degrees. End of September, September 30th. Unseasonably hot. Quite humid. This kitchen is uncomfortable. But we're going to do Italian beef in three different ways today. We're going to do it braised, we're going to do the oven roasted, and we're going to do the sous vide. All we're looking for in this experiment is tenderness and beef flavor. What's the most intense beefy flavor? And so we're going to look for that in this experiment. This is my introduction. So we're going to start by adding Chicago Johnny's Italian beef gravy seasoning and Orrington Farms broth-based beef stock into a round roast. This is bottom round from Jewel. Depending on how much gravy you want for each of the roasts, use the instructions on Orrington Farms. Now this is the sous vide version, so I'm just adding my Italian beef gravy seasoning and some of the dry powder mix and then a little bit of olive oil. And then we're going to rub the roast to kind of get the spices all around it. For the sous vide version, we are not adding any kind of liquid or gravy because it's going to be sitting in the bag cooking its own juices, and we can take and make the gravy here later. I chose the sous vide at 131 degrees for 2 days. It's like 45 to 50 hours, somewhere around there. And now we're doing the oven roasted. So I added 4 cups of water to a dry pan. Then I seasoned the roast with Chicago Johnny's Italian beef gravy seasoning, but use whatever you want. And then I added some Orrington Farms beef powder and stirred it to make a gravy. Insert your thermometer and cook the roast at 275 degrees until you get to 135 degrees internal temperature. Rule of thumb is about 20 minutes per pound. Now I like to start at 450 degrees for the oven and then drop it down to 275. And now for the braised roast, we're just going to add some Italian beef gravy seasoning. This is Chicago Johnny's brand to Orrington Farms beef powder and
Instructions
water.
on how to make the gravy are right on the bottle,
or
we started with
change it if you're using something else. The instructions are right on the bottle if you're using Chicago Johnny's. And then we're going to turn the heat on to low, medium, or low, and keep a little gap in a lid. For all 3 roasts, we're going to put the meat in a airtight bag, and then we're just going to put them in a cold water bath. This is simply putting the roast in a bag and then putting the bag in a pot and running cold water over it. Once it's chilled, you put it in the fridge. I did this overnight, and then the morning of slicing, I put it in the freezer to get a little bit of a little stiffer roast there. Pop out those thermometers. There's one in each roast. And now we're looking at the grain. We want to cut against the grain, kind of like you would for like a corned beef sandwich, because that'll make it more tender. And we want to cut it incredibly thin. You can see the light through the roast if you cut it thin enough. This is an excellent slicer, and I will put a link for it in there. Also, we want to take off the fat cap. So once I cut it to see which way the grain was going, I took off the fat cap. Probably could have done the fat cap earlier, but whatever, it's hot. Wasn't really thinking. And here we are slicing it. This is why you want this slicer. Look at that. That comes out so thin. Depending on which way the fibers of the meat are going, you might have to turn your roast a few times as you're cutting it. Round roast can run all different directions. And this is just the contents from the sous vide roast. So we're going to use that for gravy later. And then I took the fat cap off of, this was the sous vide one. And again, I'm showing you that the fibers in the meat of the grain just run in all kinds of different directions. So this one actually had to get turned a few times. Actually, all 3 of them really did. So just pay attention to that when you're slicing. You want to cut against the grain as best as you can. So you see the grains are going this way. You want to cut it this way. So in this roast, the grain's going this way. We're going to cut it this way. We're going to get smaller pieces in this roast, but it's okay. This piece here, you serve to the uncle you don't like. Now, if you cook the roast rare enough and you slice it against the grain, you can see just how tender this is. Look at this, just falls apart. Look at that. So this is out of the middle of the roast, and since it was sous vide, you can see the color is almost the same from the end all the way through. This is the center, this is the end, the outside. You can see that the color is almost the same all the way through because it's held at 131 degrees or whatever you end up doing. Again, the importance of cutting against the grain, I cannot stress enough, and this is me just rotating the roast to find the grain. And this one here is the braised roast, so you're getting a close-up look on there. This one was also very tender. Cut against the grain there, you can see how it falls apart. Just see right through it. It's paper thin, about the color of my skin. Beautiful. And this one here is a quick close-up of the oven roasted. You could see the color variations there, and you could see that it's mostly the color of my skin as well. So the color of all these came out beautifully.
So all three came out a beautiful color, and we're about to check on the textures and the consistencies of the three roasts.
All right, so real quick, we're gonna go over just the way these look. This one here is the oven roasted. You can see the color variance of like the more cooked grayer outers and then the much more pink rare insides. And we did not get a ton of gravy off of this. This started as 4 cups of water. This is sous vide to 131 degrees, and you can see it's very consistent color. The camera is making it look a little more gray than it actually is. And since we didn't start with any kind of liquid, this is all we got out of it for the gravy. And then here is our braised. This one is probably one of the more traditional ways of doing it. You can see the big color variance of the pink middles and the more gray cooked outsides. But the benefit to braise is the amount of gravy you get. It is 6 cups of gravy.
And now we know.
All right, so I'm done making. Oh, I look good. All right, done making my beef 3 ways. We made 3 beefs, 3 different ways, right? We sous vide, we did one in the oven, and we braised one. The sous vide started 2 days earlier. Process was the cooking was all different, but after they were all cooked, each one of them got bagged, separated from the gravy, bagged, put in a cold water bath with the faucet running to cool it down, and then refrigerated overnight. And then the next day, which was this morning, I partially froze it about 45 minutes to an hour, hour and 15 in the freezer to get it a little easier for slicing. Pulled it out of the freezer, took the fat cap off, sliced it. So I'm going to try each one cold, uncooked, just to get a better understanding of it. So with the oven roasted, I'm trying to do this one-handed so that the mic works better. And a quick note, the muscle fibers in the roasts, with round roasts, they run all over the place. They go left, right, up, down. Sometimes you're slicing against the grain and then you have to pull the roast and maneuver it to get it to go, to get with the grain again. So since these were just all about 3-pound roasts when I started, there's some pretty small pieces in here. If you can get a whole roast, like an 8 or 9 pound roast, you'll get those big, like London broil style pieces that you see at the delis. But these are all 3-pound roasts on sale at Jewel, $4.99 a pound, I believe. But we're gonna go through, we're gonna try them, and we're gonna compare them without actually cooking them, and then I'm gonna cook them. So here's our oven roasted. You could see it was a decent sized piece. It was sliced paper thin. See the pink? This is definitely the most colorful of the 3 ways of doing it. It's pretty consistent actually. I expected it would have been a little darker on the outside, but consistent color throughout. And we're gonna try it. It smells is very fragrant. And this is the only one where the herbs would have been exposed to a dry heat, so it makes sense. You can smell the spices in this. Let's see if we can taste it. Very tender, very beefy. You don't actually get any of the herb flavor. You get the essence, the kind of like drinking a LaCroix, like it's a strawberry, and you get that little pop of it. Definitely tender, definitely beefy. Not any of that flavor in here. Next, I'm going to do the broiled, which I'm very. So this is one piece, and it kind of fell apart, but paper thin. It's running the right way. You can see the outside that was submerged in the stock. Cooked a little bit more. This was like a point in the roast. It's kind of like narrowing in. But you can see it's paper thin. It's got a varying color from pink to a little more well done. This smell. This one actually probably smells way more intense than that one. This one does. All right. broiled was for sure more tender than the oven roasted. It's kind of surprising me because the broiled went up in temperature a few more degrees than the oven roasted, and it was sitting in the liquid for quite a while. Tender as shit. Flavor actually comes through. You get a little bit of the herbs. You get a lot of that beefiness. Huh. That is surprising. Broiled is definitely different than oven roasted. By far. And I'm not here to tell you what is the best way. I'm here to show you options so you can figure out what you like. I'm not the kind of person that's just like, this is the best way, this is what you gotta do. I might do it the oven 1 week, have it a couple months later, I'm gonna braise it. I like variety. I like textural differences. However, I'm a creature of habit. Alright, so now we're gonna go with the Sous Vide one. Sous vide definitely has the same color throughout. Sliced real thin. You can see through it. The color is the same throughout. This feels tender. This smells more like lunch meat. It smells more lunch meaty than the other two. Let's try it and see what we're like. Significantly more tender than even the broiled. I mean, this is consistent texture throughout. There wasn't like a chewier, tougher outside and then a meltier inside. It was just the same temperature or texture, and that texture was tender. Wow, that's surprising. Not as much flavor as I would have thought. Sitting in its own juices for 2 days at a very low temperature, I thought it would be a little more intense for the flavor. Somebody did suggest brining the one for the sous vide first. I didn't do that. What I'm going to do now, after this, we're going to cook them in the gravy. I'm going to use the same gravy for all three for this part of the test because I want to know that there's not as many variables. My test for this was the beef itself, not the gravies. So I'm going to probably use the braised gravy because there's so much of it. I'll add some seasoning to it and I'll cook just a little bit of each one and we'll try it that way. Alright, so now I'm going to make the gravy to cook these roasts in. I'm just going to flip the camera around and show you guys how I do it. You'll figure out the way that you like it as you go. You don't have to use, what I use for the seasoning is Chicago Johnny's Telly Beef Gravy Seasoning. It's my company. It's my brand. It is a fantastic mix. It is our #2 bestseller. There's instructions right on the bottle, how much to add. And what I use, instead of beef stock, I love this. This is Orrington Farms Beef Base and Seasonings. The reason I fell into this, I tried a ton of different stocks, gravies. Salt content and herb content would vary vastly. This is the most consistent one that I found. So when you're using my seasoning with the beef powder, you're less likely to get a spike in sodium content or too much oregano or something like that, make it bitter. So that combination is my preferred. You can do what you like. You can get a basic Italian seasoning. You can do your own. You can unseason it. Some places don't even season it. It's just beef stock. And that's how they make it. So it's really going to be up to you what you want to do. This is the way I like it. And this is the way we're going to make my gravy. So let me flip this camera around. And now we can make the gravy. So this is just a pint of gravy from the braised roast that I made. Let me try it. That has a really good flavor already. I'm not actually going to touch this, so we're just going to use this. Quick note, full disclosure, I am in the middle of a few projects here in this kitchen, so it is not sightly. So I'm just going to give a close-up of the gravy. You're not going to see the dirty under the stove. All right, so this is a little too high of a simmer, so we're just going to turn it down, and then we'll come back. You can see bubbles just active. That's what you want to cook this beef in. This is our oven roasted. And we're just going to let it simmer in here very briefly. We want to let it warm through The longer you leave it in here, the tougher it's gonna be. So this is perfect. Pull it out. This actually may be a little bit too much. Even though this isn't simmering and bubbling like it was, it's still very hot from being out like that. All right, so let me reverse this. This might be the perfect texture. My fear with the sous vide one is that when I go to do it, it's gonna fall apart. This held together. It was tender. It had a slight resistance to it. Intense flavor. Beautiful flavor. So braised right now is killing it. All right, so now we're on to sous vide. This one curled up quite a bit, it looks like, probably because of the way it was cut. The fibers are running perfectly. It's not because it's tough, or my guess is not because it's tough, I guess. Sous vide. Unquestionably, sous vide is incredibly tender. Not too tender, though. It did not fall apart like I maybe thought it was gonna. That might be ideal. 3 varying textures for sure. I feel like on a sandwich, the braised is going to be the best. We'll see when we do sandwiches. But yeah, that's my prediction. Is braised is going to be the best on the sandwich. Sous vide is definitely the most tender. Braised is tender with a little bit of resistance, and the oven roasted probably has a little bit too much resistance for sandwiches. We'll get an update when we do sandwiches. All right, real quick, we're going to taste the gravies. I forgot to do the 3 different gravies, or I guess the drippings. What was left with the 3 ways that we cooked it. We used the braised to cook the meat and give it a testing, but we're going to try each gravy cold without seasoning or reduction, I guess it would be. So remember the oven, we started with 4 cups of water. We ended up with a little less than a cup. The braised, we started with 6 cups of water, I believe. We ended up with about 6 cups. We really didn't lose anything on that. And then the sous vide, we started with no water. So everything that's in the sous vide is just the seasoning and the juices of the roast itself and a touch of olive oil to help it coat while it's in the bag. So we'll try those, see how they are. All right, so I got the microphone and phone in my left hand and the spoon. All right, let's see how this goes. We're going to start the same order. So we're going to start with the oven roasted. This is just the drippings, so give it a stir. Again, we ended up with just about a little less than a cup. And we started with 4 cups. So let's see. Whoa, that is intense. That has to be diluted. Good flavor though. Probably gonna reduce that or dilute that equal amount of water. Maybe, yeah, it's probably gonna be 1-to-1 water. So we're gonna take a cup of that and a cup of water and make ours. Next we have our braised, which had almost no reduction to it whatsoever. I'm gonna give it a stir. Really good color on this one. Pretty good flavor. Could use a little bit more seasoning. Kind of tastes like ramen. You ever get beef ramen? That tastes like the beef packet of ramen. So you could definitely use more seasoning in the braised. Let's try the sous vide. This one is going to be the most interesting to me because it's thick for sure. You could stirring it, I could see that. Because like I said, there is no water in here. This is all from the beef. That is delightful. I think it's a perfect ratio. I don't think you have to do anything to that one. The sous vide gravy has perfect flavor. And it makes sense because the sous vide itself probably had the least amount of herb flavor or intensity of flavor in general of all 3, but it was the most tender. But the herb flavor didn't really penetrate the sous vide. It is sitting right there in the gravy. That is delightful. Interesting. That is a good dilution there, so we're going to go with that. I'm going to add some more Chicago Johnny's Italian beef gravy seasoning to the gravy. I'd say about 1.5 tablespoons, and we'll go from there. Give this a stir, and then we're going to put it on the stove, same as the trial run when we were just trying the individual pieces. We want it to be very light simmer, if not even just less than a simmer. So for filming purposes, because I'm doing this on my own, I'm going to make the sandwiches and I'll wrap them, and then I'll probably come back to you after I wrap them. Right now I'm just heating up the gravy. I'll cook the beef, make the sandwich, put it on the bread, dip it, wrap it, and let it sit for a minute, and we'll come back. All right, so this is near perfect. You can see just the bubbles slowly coming up. So first we have braised. You want to separate it, the meat as best you can. Really let the flavors get mixed up in there. This looks good. Now we have our sandwich. Dip it in there. Let it run off a little bit, and then we're gonna put it in our paper. Now the reason we're wrapping them is so that the juices can kind of circulate around and moisten up that whole bun. Kind of tightens everything together. Flavors go well, and then it's less drippy. You know, the gravy's got somewhere to go. Goes into the bread. All right, so this is our braised sandwich. This is the first one that we put in there. It's been wrapped for a couple minutes now. We're just gonna cut it in half. An incredibly sharp knife when you're doing this. And that's our braised. Here's our oven roasted. Looks fucking good, man. And then we have our sous vide. All right, so to give a comparison, this was our braised beef. This one here was our oven roasted beef. And this one here was our sous vide beef. All cooked, second cooking was all the same for all of them. And we're gonna try them out now. So we're gonna take our braised sandwich here. This was kind of in the middle for tenderness between the oven roasted and the sous vide. But they were, the oven roasted and the sous vide, the oven roasted and the braised were almost so close as far as tenderness went. So we're gonna try in a sandwich, see how it works. Braised is probably what you're getting when you go to most places. It's delicious. Tender, melts in your mouth. Really, really good flavor. So that was braised. All right, now we're gonna try the oven roasted. So this is our oven roasted beef, dipped. So we just dipped them all, so they're kind of in between soaking wet and dry. And I did this because I just wanted consistency among all three sandwiches. And that's the way we're gonna try them out. So this is our oven roasted. Definitely a difference. The oven roasted is a little more tough. Not as tender as the braised, for sure. As far as tenderness goes, the braised is definitely more tender. As far as herbaceous flavor goes, this oven roasted one definitely has more flavor than the braised one. And I'm wondering if that's because the herbs were sitting in the dry heat, toasting them and letting out some of those oils. That flavor definitely got into this meat. All right, now we're gonna try the sous vide beef. I've done both of these methods before, the braised and the oven roasted. The first time doing a sous vide beef. Actually, I've only sous vide'd about 8 or 10 things in the entirety of my home cooking. So let's try it out. It's the last day of September, unseasonably warm. It's like almost 90 degrees outside. It's blazing hot here in this kitchen. Middle of the day, 2 o'clock, middle-ish of the day. But it is hot and steamy in this kitchen. All right, so this is our sous vide. And this was the most tender, just cooking the meat itself. I'm assuming that's going to happen again now. Absolutely, without question, the sous vide is more tender. By a fairly significant amount. Say like 20%-ish. But it's lacking flavor. I honestly, at the beginning of this, thought the sous vide was getting the most flavor. It's cooking for 2 days in its own juices. Those herbs are going. It's going to start, the flavor's going to go in and out of the meat, kind of like a brine. But it did not. It did not. By far the most tender. This is going to sound kind of stupid. it might be too tender. So with the Philly cheesesteak, you get a real tender beef in there because you're using the ribeye. Really good marbling in the fat. This is more tender meat. The Italian beef is round roast usually, bottom, top, eye. This is bottom, and round roast is a little tougher of meat. So Italian beef sandwich generally has more bite to it, more give, more resistance. That sous vide one is completely tender, falls apart in your mouth. It needs texture. It needs jardiniere, um, hot peppers, sweet peppers, something like that. There needs to be a texture in there with sous vide for me, but definitely different. So there you have it. We have oven roasted, we have braised, oven roasted, and sous vide Italian beef. This is simply a test for tenderness and for beef flavor. This is Josh Downey, Chicago Johnny's. We did Italian beef in 3 different ways. We braised it, we oven roasted it, and we sous vided it. We're simply looking for what had the most beef flavor and what had the most tenderness. Hands down, the most tenderness went to sous vide, and the beef flavor probably sous vide. Could have went with the braised as well. The oven roasted definitely had the most herb flavor, which is probably just because the herbs got to hit the heat. Get rid of some of those oils, let them drip down the roast and into the gravy pan, and then back into the roast when we cooked it again the second time. So, are you gonna try this? What say you?